Hey guys, so here we go. We're starting lesson 2 of chapter 2, percents and fractions. There are two goals for this lesson, and they're right there. The first goal is to write percents as fractions, and the second goal is to write fractions as percents. And keep in mind, the question for this lesson is, actually for this chapter, is to think about when is it better to use a fraction, a decimal, or a percent. Okay, each one has its advantages. And the vocabulary word for this lesson is percent. So make sure you write a definition because you might use it. You might need it for the quiz. But let's get started. All right, goal number 1. As you can already see, it's going to be changing percents to fractions. Okay. I think I can use it now. Percents to fractions. The best way to learn this is just to get it done. Just do it. So we're going to look at page 102. And we're going to look at the got it's. Start A, B, C through F, but right now we're going to look at letter A. Now the directions state, write each percent as a fraction in simplest form. Okay, so first, like I said before, the first thing you should do is copy the number correctly. Make sure it's correct. Okay? Now, after that, you have to consider something. We want a fraction. A fraction will have a numerator and a denominator. Okay? Fairly straightforward. But how do you know what to write? Okay, by definition, percent means per 100. And the fraction line is per 100, so you're going to write 100 at the bottom. 75 per 100 means you have 75%, right? So they're interchangeable. Okay, and there's your fraction. That's the easy part. Okay, the thing to consider now is that you have to simplify it, if possible. Now, I notice that they both end, one ends in a 5, the other ends in a 0. That means I can make groups of 5, or I can make 5 groups. A factor is 5. It's not the GCF, it's not the greatest common factor, but it's a start. Okay? And if you break up 75 into 5 groups, that means you get 15. And 100 broken up into 5 groups means you have groups of 20. Okay? And as you can see, same issue. Again, I can divide by 5. Okay. Now, if you had used the GCF, let me just show you real fast why that's a good thing to do, to use the GCF. It's less work to do at the end. 3/4. And that's it. So to go from 75% to a fraction, you get 3/4. Now, they're not the same numbers, obviously. Here you have a percent, you have 3/4, but they represent the same value, the same quantity. No, not even quantity, because it depends what you're talking about, but the same value, the same idea. Okay? So that's pretty much it. Going from this to this is easy. The next part of simplifying, that's where it gets a little harder. But if you do your math, take your time, do it right, you'll do fine. Okay? Now, if you notice, I didn't break this down anymore because by now you should be good at breaking problems of numbers into groups using division and whatnot. Because this is division. You can simply just to remind you, 75 divided by 5 is this. Okay? And you could do the work. I mean, prove it to yourself. If I'm wrong, please tell me later, but there it is. Okay? So that's letter A. Okay. Next page. By the way, you should be using pencil, but because pen is, you can see pen better, I'm using pen. So if I make mistakes, it's going to look a little sloppy, but that's okay. We're going to do letter C, same page. Now we have 38%. Same thing. We have percent. We have to change this into a fraction in simplest form. Well, already. First thing, I copied the step. I copied the number correctly. It is 38%. I'm going to use the definition of percent to set this up. 38% per 100. Halfway there. I need to find a common factor. One ends in an 8, the other ends in a 0. That means they're both even numbers. I can use 2 as a factor. This is 19. And this is 50. Now, I realize I didn't do any work. Eventually, guys, you'll get to a point where you understand your times tables, and you can just do this quickly in your head even, which is what you should be able to do. Okay? All right. Letter D. All right, you have word problems. This is where it gets a little harder. This is page 103. And that's only because you have to look for the information. So you have a table, page 103, here it is. It says, write the fraction of rentals that were horror movies. Well, there's the horror movies. All right, here's my table, types of movies, horror, 5%. And yes, the answer was there, but the point isn't knowing the answer. The point is knowing how you got there. Okay, 5%. 5%, 5 per 100. I can use 5 as a common factor. And that's it. One thing to remember. For percents, going to fractions, the denominator will always be 100. Okay? Denominator will always be 100, unless you simplify. Okay? But as you've seen in the examples I just did, from percent to fraction, the denominator is 100. Okay? And let me add that, unless you simplify. Or until you simplify. Okay. Whew, okay, goal number 2. Now we're going backwards. From fractions to percents. Okay. Looking at page 103. This is letter E, I believe. Nine twelfths. All right. Oof. Let's take a moment and think about this before I do anything else. Let's look. We have 9 twelfths. Somehow I want to have a fraction with a denominator of 100 so I can get my percent. The only thing that's going to be missing is this. Whatever goes on here, on top of that, will go in front of the percent symbol. All right. Now, let's think this through. I could, and I will, I'll just show you, I could divide the numerator by the denominator, and that'll give me a decimal number, and I change the decimal number to a percentage. That is one way to do it. In fact, I'll just do it right now. Method, divide numerator by denominator. Now, is it hard? No. Is it a lot of work? Yes. But it can be done. Okay, I'm going to use a pencil. Okay. I'm making groups of 12. Remember that, groups of 12. Again, a fraction is another way to show division. Remember that? I can't make groups of 12 out of 9, so add a 0 there. Add a decimal point saying, hey, I got to break this up into parts. Add a 0. Now I have 90. Okay, you got to know your times tables here. How many groups of 12 can I make out of 90? Now this is a multiplication issue. I'm going through my times tables in my head. 12 times 1 is 12. 12 times 5 is 60. 12 times 7 is 84. 12 times 8 is 96. Okay, that's too much. Let's stick with 7. 12 times 7 is 84. 90 minus 84. Okay, now I could do the whole borrowing, but let's think about this. I'm going to do a little stick here, a little tapping of the pencil. 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90. 6 dots. That's 6. Okay. I add another 0 because I have a remainder. That means I have to break this up into more pieces. Right? That's 60. Well, how many groups of 12 can you make out of 60? 5. Okay. 0.75. If I move the decimal point 2 spaces to the right, I get 75%. Okay. That's one way of doing that. Let me show you another way. It might be a little faster for you. But again, with math, you find the way that works for you. Okay? 9/12. I'm going to see if I can simplify this. I know that 9 and 12 have a common factor of 3. That becomes 3/4. By the way, if I had simplified it first, I could have divided 3 by 4 instead of this. But I would have gotten the same answer. I would have gotten 0.75. These two fractions are equivalent. They represent the same value. All right, but now here we go. We have two fractions, 3/4. Now, I have to find a way to make 3/4 equivalent to this. Okay, now if you remember, to go from 4 to 100, I'm scaling up. So I need, how many copies of 4 do I need to get to 100? In other words, how many times do I have to multiply 4 to get to 100? 4 times what gives me 100? Okay, at this point you should probably know this because we've done it so many times. It's going to be 25. Do the same thing here. 75 per 100, 75%. All right. And this would be the second method. I know I didn't put method number 2, but let's call it whatever you want to call it, method number 2. All right. There is one more example I can do. Letter F. And guys, you know, you've already seen it. It's just a matter of taking a step back, thinking it through. There's more than one way to get the right answer. Do not rush it. When you take the quiz, it'll be online. You'll have time to get it done, right? So no rush. All right, it's another word problem. Alana spelled 19 out of 25 words correctly. What percent of the words did Alana spell correctly? Okay, it's a ratio. 19 out of 25. Now, I know, oops, you can't see this. Let me move this up and move this up. 19 out of 25. As always, label what the numbers mean. Because depending on the question, your answer might be a little different. All right. 19 words spelled correctly. 19 correct words. Out of 25 total. Now, do you have to write that? No, you could put correctly spelled or 25 words total at the bottom. You have to decide what you want to write. But the point is, label it, okay? Okay, anyways, there we go. We already did method number 1. Let's just might as well label it here. Method number 2. Make equivalent fractions. Make. Because that's really what we did with the other example. I'm going to try that first. Because honestly, I don't like dividing. I'll be honest with you. If I can find another way of multiplying, I'd rather go for that. All right. 1925. I want a percent. Right? So that means by definition, I need a fraction with a denominator of 100. And again, whatever goes here will go in front of the percent. All right. Now, did we just do this? We're scaling up. How many groups of 25 do I need to get to 100? How many quarters do I need to get to $1? 4. 19 times 4. I can do this in my head. No big deal. Let me see. Wait, what am I trying to prove here? I'm going to just do the math here. It's 76, by the way, but let me do the math. Like I said, there is no shame in doing the work with paper and pencil. 4 times 9 is 36. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 is 7. 76. So 76 per 100 is 76%. Okay. Now, guys, these are your notes. You're copying this. Please add what you feel is necessary. Okay. To make this easier for you. And that's it. Actually, this might be the shortest lecture I've given so far. It's only 15 minutes.